Park Invasive Plant Program's Terrestrial Invasive Species Partner Roundtable. We've been holding these roundtables for the last, this is the third one, so the last 2 years, as an opportunity for our partners to get together and talk about our work for the upcoming year and look for ways to collaborate. So without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to spend the first kind of 10 minutes here. I think we're already at 10:03, just welcoming everyone and going over our outline here. And then we're going to jump into our introductions and discussion. So I'll kick things off by giving a 5 to 10 minute update about some of APIP's work in 2022 and our upcoming work in 2023. Then we'll pass things off to some of our partners and give them an opportunity to provide updates. Some things to think about while you're providing your updates are what are your top 1 or 2 terrestrial invasive species priorities for the upcoming year, as well as are there any projects you would like to coordinate with other partners on this call or afterwards. Once everyone's had a chance to give their updates, we'll kind of open it up into an open forum and just give folks a chance to talk about invasive species, their terrestrial invasive species work in the upcoming year. And we'll hope to adjourn by about 11:30 today. So jumping into our APIP update, in 2022, APIP staff, our partners, our volunteers, and our terrestrial early detection and rapid response team surveyed 42 New York State DEC administered campgrounds, about 110 recreational access points, such as trailheads and boat launches, sections of over 30 forest preserve units. All are part of over 40 road corridors, and in total conducted over 3,400 assessments. So I have a picture of 3 of our seasonal staff here. Adelia is actually on our call today, so we're excited to have her on this call that did a lot of this work. As a result of all of that monitoring and survey work, we found approximately 500 new terrestrial infestations, bringing our total mapped terrestrial invasive species infestations in the PRISM to just over 7,000. And I do want to note that those infestations that we found may not be new to the PRISM, they're just new to us. And so as our survey work has been productive and it takes us less time to conduct our treatment work each year, we have more time to survey, and as a result, we find more infestations. Getting into our management work this year, our stewards as well as our EDRR crew, which is pictured here from Invasive Plant Control, managed about 725 infestations, and their management work totaled about 27 acres. So you look at that 725 infestations and that pretty small acreage overall, most of the infestations that we're managing are pretty small, which is why we have such great success. We catch these things early and we're able to manage them before they get huge. So we've documented the absence of invasive species at about 1,600 of our historically managed sites, which means that 64% of the sites that we managed in the past are now free of invasive species. It's a pretty great success rate, and we're really happy with that. About 77% of our priority terrestrial invasive species infestations are currently under active management or have been successfully removed from the landscape. Those numbers above don't include the numbers from our Knotweed Management Partnership, our volunteer program, which managed about 137 priority knotweed sites this year. Switching gears from terrestrial plants into forest pests, just a few highlights. This year, we monitored traps for emerald ash borer, as well as spotted lanternfly and some bark and ambrosia beetle traps. Those emerald ash borer traps did lead to a positive finding at Riparius Bridge in Riparius, New York. And fortunately, we did not find any spotted lanternfly in our traps. We also conducted on-the-ground surveys for hemlock woolly adelgid, beech leaf disease, balsam woolly adelgid, and jumping worms. In addition, Zach and Megan, one of our stewards last year, who is pictured on that first slide, conducted some environmental DNA surveys for hemlock woolly adelgid, where they took branch samples and worked in conjunction with our partners at the New York State Hemlock Initiative to look for hemlock woolly adelgid. We once again worked with our partners to manage hemlock woolly adelgid on Dome Island, which is about a 15-acre island in the middle of Lake George that's owned by the Nature Conservancy. And the big win here is our Forest Pest Hunters volunteer program. A huge thank you to our Forest Pest Hunters. I know at least Bill's on the call today, and I don't know if any of our other volunteers are on today, but these Forest Pest Hunter volunteers entered over 500 observations into IMAP invasives and donated over 500 hours of their time. And that is just huge for finding where these species exist. Switching gears once more, Zach led our research front this year with a few research projects. I think this is the third year of his AVID, or Assessing Vegetation Impacts from Deer project. This project involves setting up deer exclosures and looking at forest regeneration inside and outside of those plots to look at the impact of deer on forest regeneration in our area. Zach also kicked off this year a really cool knotweed control program where he's assessing the effectiveness of various pesticides as well as various application methods and a physical control method as some alternatives to glyphosate in our knotweed control work. Looking ahead to 2023, what are our plans and our opportunities? And APIP really is a partnership. So this picture here on the left is a couple of years old now, but it shows a bunch of APIP staff and a bunch of Lake George Land Conservancy staff, as well as our friend Dawn at DEC driving the boat there to go perform that treatment on Dome Island. And there are lots of opportunities to work together. So in the coming year, we will continue our invasive plant and forest pest survey and control works. We will have 3 terrestrial seasonal staff this year, our invasive species management assistant, our campground steward, as well as our forest pest research assistant. These 2 options at the bottom are in bold because they're opportunities for partners to get involved. We are once again hosting our Forest Pest Hunters program. We actually kicked off the hemlock woolly adelgids section of that program on January 24th, and it will run through April 9th. We've already had a bunch of trails adopted, and I want to say over 60 reports come in. So a big thank you to those volunteers. And we'll also kick off the beech leaf disease portion of that project, probably late this summer or early this fall. We are going to continue to host a bunch of workshops and outreach events and much, much more. And I'll talk about those in a minute. Kind of one last thing to talk about before we give our partners a chance to speak and really get into what today is all about. Our annual report is now available online, and Sean is going to drop a link to where you can find that report in the chat. So at that link that Sean just dropped in, you can find our annual report. And you can also find a 6-page highlight section that includes highlights in our special initiatives. So if you don't want to read our entire report, that little 6-page section really hits the high points of the most important work we did this year. Also on that page, you can find the reports from our early detection and rapid response crew, our seasonal campground steward, as well as our forest pest research assistant. At our last partner meeting, we mentioned that we have a partner dashboard under development, and I just wanted to provide just a brief update on that and let you know that we'll be asking some key partners who volunteered to submit their 2022 data next month, and Zach will be leading that effort. Next up, our spring partner meeting, our more formal partner meeting, will be held on April 27th. However, we're unsure if folks would prefer an in-person or a Zoom meeting. So I think Sean can launch a poll here in a minute, and we'll give folks about a minute to answer and just kind of see what folks' preference is so that we can have that meeting in a way that, most people are happy with. So Sean, I don't know if you want to launch that poll. Perfect. We'll just go until we see, most people have answered. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. And we are at about where we were yesterday with the aquatic partners meeting. We asked the same question. It looks like about 2/3 of folks would prefer an online meeting and others would prefer an in-person meeting. So Sean will take note of that, and we'll take that into consideration for the next partner meeting planning. Thank you, folks. So without further ado, I'm going to kind of pass things off to our partners. So on the left here, we have just, a few little pointers to guide your discussion, introduce yourself, talk about what your terrestrial invasive species projects you're working on in 2023, and also mention any projects that you'd like to coordinate on in the coming year. So we're going to kick things off with New York State DOT. In general, we're asking folks to keep their updates to 2 or 3 minutes. However, we have allotted New York State DOT a few extra minutes since they are a founding partner of APIP. So if Peter's on the call, Peter, I will pass things off to you.
Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you just fine, Peter.
Oh, hello, everyone. And we are honored to have a few extra minutes. So I'll try and be judicious with them and get right to it. I'm reading from something that we've submitted. I could share a screen, but it'll take me 2 minutes to share my screen, so I'll just read it. We've had some staffing changes, most notably in our Region 7, that's the Watertown region. Our Adirondack regions are Region 2, which is Utica, Region 7, Watertown, and Region 1, which is based in our main office in Albany. So in Watertown, our regional landscape architect, who is the main contact for design for Region 7, Lynn Godek, she left state service for the private sector. But the good news is that Alexandra Beck was there and working with her closely for years and very passionate about Adirondack issues. She's the acting regional landscape architect and Adirondack Park contact. And in our main office, Terry Smith, some of you may know him. He was the director of the Environmental Sciences Bureau. We have 3 bureaus in Office of Environment. He's been appointed the director. And just to get on to some of the specifics, in our Region 1, on Route 9L, Queensbury, we have been monitoring Phragmites. They'll continue to do that. There was no activity in 2022. Remsen Lake Placid Travel Corridor in Region 2, detected invasives in 2021, treated in 2022, and they're planning monitoring in 2023. There was Japanese knotweed at Nelson Lake, regrowth identified and treated, and also Galrucella beetles were noted at purple loosestrife in Big Moose. We did not put them there, but we noticed them there. Seed heads were removed and bagged in fall of 2022. Route 8, West Canada Creek site in Region 2, we had a pilot test with Proganics, kind of a soil alternative to just bringing in imported topsoil, which is a goal of ours. We monitored it multiple times and removed weeds manually in November 22. Seems to be doing well. We're monitoring it in 2023. Also in Region 2 in Hamilton County, they've been mowing doing a limited mowing practice. There were 2 years of limited mowing, and they mowed the entire right-of-way. So it's a kind of a 3-year cycle this year, and they're going to keep down the woodies and things like that. So they're going to do that, kick off that cycle again in 2023, limited mowing for a couple of years. Route 28, north of Route 12 and 28 in Region 2 also, north of the park. There was no retreatment of Phragmites required, but they're monitoring and treating it as necessary in 2023. And then they've been plenty of reporting in coordination with APIP for invasive treatments on Phragmites and purple loosestrife at various locations. In our facilities, oh my goodness, my screen is being bulky. Okay, in our facilities, we treated and monitored highway maintenance responsibility facilities in the park at Alder Creek, State Dam Road. There was no Phragmites regrowth since 2019. The Salt Barn area was treated in 2022 and 2021 monitored in 2022. There's been a little bit of regrowth in 2022 and we'll treat it in 2023. At our Wrightsville facility, they detected Phragmites within the fence and ditch line, and the treatment is planned for 2023. Indian Lake, Wells, and Paseco shops, they screened, and no priority terrestrial species or spotted landfly were detected, thank God. Long Lake sub-residency, purple loosestrife was identified and hand-pulled in 2022. They'll monitor that and treat it in 2023. Regarding training and outreach, we continue our boat wash partnership at the Adirondack Welcome Center with Paul Smith's College. We've done a lot of tailgate trainings on ditching and mowing, BMPs, invasive species, and herbicide training as well in Regions 1 and 2. And we've also done training on rolling out the master T-Comp, which is finalized, signed, posted, and we gave an overview for APIP in March, and as well as come one, come all training in our environmental landscape architecture training series internally. We did that with DEC and APA and a team taught thing. So it was very, very fruitful, I think, to get the word out. Some capital projects, we've been constantly washing equipment and properly disposing of contaminated soils. In Region 2, they've been compiling a list of capital program and maintenance projects to track establishment or spread of invasive species as a result of soil disturbance. And they're going to be adding to that a list of capital projects and a list of highway work permit projects that were issued to others. So we want to monitor invasive species on those as well. That'll be added. And in 2023, the Region 2 crews will continue to screen all sites and add to the herbicide screw treatment list as necessary. And they will coordinate with APIP if locations are treated in 2023. Super quick statewide initiatives. We have vegetation management guidelines that we've developed, and we are going to be planning to join the Monarch CCAA in early 2023. We've also been working on guidance for seeding and soil management in the Adirondack Park, which of course touches on invasives. We've coordinated that well with APIP, and those are going to be appendices to guidelines for the Adirondack Park, also known as the Green Book. We've continued spotted lanternfly. We're heavily involved in that multi-agency group, trapping, reporting species specifications. We've been making design guidance, and we've distributed flyers, ID cards, trained bridge inspectors, and even spoken to the Association of General Contractors and screened our own facilities as well. And the FGIS Master Travel Corridor Unit Management Plan, the TCUMP, I've supplied links to APIP. We've issued it. We've done our annual report for 2020, 2021, and posted it publicly. And we're doing a 2022 annual report as well. So that's it. I don't know how I did with the 5 minutes, but I hope I did it.
No, Peter, those are some great updates, and we really appreciate all the work that you and all the other folks at New York State DOT are doing to manage invasive species. Without further ado, we'll pass it off to Liz at the Ausable River Association.
Thanks, Becca. My internet is struggling a little today, so I'm going to leave my camera off and hope that it holds through for this. I'm Liz Metzger with the Ausable River Association. I guess the first thing we're looking forward to in 2023 is our Hemlock Woolly Adelgid field training coming up next week with Becca. We had a great time last year and are hoping this year will be great too. So if anyone's interested in learning to look for Hemlock Woolly Adelgid, we urge you to join us. This year, we will again have our river steward, who not only monitors the river for aquatic invasive species, but also monitors the corridor for terrestrial invasive species, marking any new findings in IMAP invasives and using IPIP as a tool, or APIP as a tool for any management. Last year, we added 2 boot brush stations to the watershed at the Flume and Connery Pond trailheads. We're hoping to add another station in 2023 and to plan out how we'd like to expand that further across the watershed in coming years. We also started last year a Lake Champlain Basin program, Streamwise program, that allowed us to work with landowners to look at their riparian buffers. And we learned a big part of that was invasive species. So we did a lot of work with landowners, identifying and giving them the resources to manage that. So we hope to continue that program this year and reach more landowners. And I think that's the main update from us.
Thanks so much, Liz. Sean, would you actually mind dropping the link to our events page in the chat? As Liz mentioned, we're hosting a hike with them to look for some HWA next week. And there are also 2 other opportunities, and I'll talk about those at the end today. But if folks are interested, while Liz has whet our appetite, we'll have Sean drop the link to register for those events into the chat. Next, we'll pass it off to the Lake George Land Conservancy if either Mike or Alex want to give an update.
I'll give the update. I don't think Mike's here. I got so much to talk about, so I'll just make it quick. We're working with HWA. So this year I'll be working doing helping APIB and DEC and other partners with treatments. While continuing to do surveys on our properties and local DEC lands also, as well as helping with some HWA field trainings. I also want to highlight our Garlicella beetle rearing program that I've been doing with our local soil and water here, which is helping out private landowners since the DEC stopped doing it. Ash borer monitoring and biocontrols, we're still working on trying to get those in some areas where ash borer has been found. And of course, working with you, Rebecca, over at our black ash stand, which we appreciate. Also, various invasive volunteer work days on public and private land. So that's kind of everything in a nutshell. I could get into the details, but talk all day about it.
Well, thanks for that update, Alex, and for all the work you folks do.
Oh,
We
thank
certainly
you.
like working with you guys.
Same here.
So I'm gonna see if anyone from Capital Region Prism's on. I know Chris and Sam both registered, but they both mentioned to me they're in the field today. And we're gonna try their best to log on. So just give them a few seconds to see if anyone from Capital Region Prism's on. I'm not hearing either Sam or Chris pipe in, so we will pass it to Jillian if she is on from Clinton County Soil and Water. I'm not seeing Jillian. Is Caitlin on from Hamilton County Soil and Water? Not seeing Caitlin. So we will go to Stephanie at Herkimer County Highway Department.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Stephanie Tile from Herkimer County Highway Department. I'm going to keep mine very short. We directly do not do any invasive species work, but we do partner with the Adirondack Conservancy, and also our Herkimer County Soil and Water has a great program going. They take care of quite a bit of knotweed in our right-of-ways, and we are starting to finally see some of it receding. And we're just hoping to continue the great partnerships we have with both entities to beat this stuff. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. We certainly appreciate our relationship with all of the county highway departments in our region. Next up, we'll pass things over to Kristen at Up Beyond the Farm if she is on today. And Blake with the Adirondack Council.
Hey, good morning. I actually don't really have any updates on the terrestrial side. I'm mainly filling in. It's a bit of a busier week for us because we're undergoing some strategic planning with the Racket Lake Preservation Foundation, which is, I usually sit in more on the aquatic calls. But one piece of information I'll share that may be somewhat pertinent to this group is just a grant that we recently decided to pursue through the Great Lakes Action Agenda money that was announced. Those grants are up to $50,000, and we are looking to try to put in place a sort of like a digital media specialist that would work in collaboration with possibly the town of Long Lake, as well as Hamilton County Soil and Water. And much of that role would actually be focused on invasive education and just prevention outreach. So we are definitely going to be gearing that more towards the sort of lake association interests, but there definitely will be sort of a focus at the watershed scale. So there's some opportunities there for some terrestrial education as well. That's pretty much, I think, the only update for the good of this group, but yeah, enjoying hearing everybody else's updates.
Thanks so much, Blake. We certainly appreciate that update. I'm not seeing Ezra on from Adirondack Research, so I'm going to jump to Steve Young with the Adirondack Botanical Society.
Hi, how you doing, Becca? Hi, everyone. I'm here representing the Adirondack Botanical Society, and we are botanists and plant enthusiasts out looking at plants all summer long in the Adirondacks, and we do like to look for tier 1 and tier 2 species. And we also have some other projects that we're planning. One of them is the survey of ferns, mosses, and lichens of the Champlain Hills. And we also have our ongoing Adirondack Orchid project. And those you can see on our updated website if you just Google Adirondack Botanical Society. And we do field trips throughout the summer. And anyone is welcome to join and learn about native, non-native plants. We have things called flash bots, which are sort of last minute field trips that people arrange to go to places. And we also coordinate with the New York Flora Association for some field trips. So if you go to our website, you can join our Google group and get emails about those. I will also be doing, continuing my flora work, plant surveys of Valcour Island up near Plattsburgh, and also the Hudson River Ice Meadows south of the Glen. And also I'm helping out the Essex Garden Club with removing invasives and planting natives at the Essex Quarry, which is just south of town, and a preserve of the Champlain area trails. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Steve. And I second your message to go up and sign up for the email alerts from the Adirondack Botanical Society. There's some great information in those. Next, we will pass it to Ev at the East Shore Schroon Lake.
Yeah, good morning, Ev McNeil, East Shore Schroon Lake Association. In our watershed, we have 9 known TIS. There's probably a couple more, but we know of 9. We have 500 members, and monthly we have a newsletter that we try to highlight a different TIS and educate our members to look for and what to do, how to remedy, and so forth. We have active programs for 4: Japanese barberry, wild parsnip, purple loosestrife, and garlic mustard. We're addressing those with volunteers from the association. Our biggest concern is HWA, which is, I guess you could say, right over the hill from us at Lake George. We're trying to educate our members to watch for that. One of the problems we have is with all the snowbirds, most of our members have left the planet, so to speak. That's pretty much it. One other thing, not really an invasive issue, but we're trying to obtain the new American chestnut to plant in our area. And we're anxiously waiting to see if they get approval to release those. So that's it for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Ev, and thanks for all the work you folks do with your lake association. It's really cool seeing some of the lake associations really tie the terrestrial and the aquatic world. They're definitely both important parts. I'm not seeing Scott from the Adirondack Lakes Alliance, so I'm going to pass it to Emily at the Lake Clear Association.
Hi, this is Emily Tyner here at the Lake Clear Association. Just a little bit of an update here. Sorry for no picture. I'm afraid of losing my internet. So we are working with Mason Stein of the Franklin County Soil and Water Conservation District to address our Japanese knotweed patches that I think I've worked with you, or at least contacted you about a year ago. Anyway, he's going to be helping with that, and I don't see him on the call, so I will make sure to let him know. I was very interested that Zach is doing that research on knotweed control. And will you be sending out the links to different things after this meeting?
Yeah, I can follow up with a link to the recording for folks who wanted to join us today who weren't able to. And I can also include the link to that page that Sean shared where all of our reports are. And if you want to learn more about the knotweed program, it is covered in the special initiatives in that 6-page section.
Okay, good. I'll forward that to him. And then I'll just let you know other things. We do a Lake Clear Association, mainly me, is I monitor our nearby roadsides and trails for all invasive species, but mostly what I'm dealing with is keeping the wild parsnip at bay and far away from our area, and checking for purple loosestrife, lesser celandine, and goutweed, and managing those as I'm able to. I'm also just personally been involved in garlic mustard control just in a couple of my favorite hiking places. Downerville State Park, I think that's in a different prism, and Indian Creek Nature Center. So, and I've been pretty successful in those two places, and I've reported on IMAP invasives. And I think that's it for me.
Thanks so much, Emily, and thanks for all that work. I certainly see your name coming across on IMAP a lot, and we definitely appreciate all those
Well,
IMAP reports from everyone.
I do keep my eye open for hemlock woolly adelgid, but unfortunately, I just I do it so haphazardly. I don't report it on IMAP invasives. I just sort of keep my eye out anywhere I go. So sorry about that I'm not adding to your numbers, but I am keeping an eye out. All
Yeah, we
right.
certainly appreciate that eye out, Emily.
Yeah, thank you.
We will pass it to either Dave or Richard with the Piseco Lake Association next.
Okay, this is Dave, and I'm primarily associated with the aquatic stuff. Richard does more of the plant stuff, but there's three things that we commonly are looking for: the garlic mustard, Phragmites, and the Japanese knotweed. And what we typically do is call the Hamilton County Soil and Water and get Caitlin involved, and then she sends out techs that can go out, the technicians go out, and they can use the herbicides and things like that, especially on the Japanese knotweed. They've been treating several areas. The darn things keep coming back. They'll knock off like 95% of them. The next year, you'll see little ones popping up again. So they come back and retreat those. So we're trying to keep those areas under control. But we have we have 3 meetings over the summer, and we usually have someone talk about terrestrials and bring in some samples to show the members what they look like. So we try to keep everyone involved with it, people that own the camps and like that, to know what to report, and have them report that directly to Hamilton County Soil and Water, and they will then take the things out, or people can pull them out on their own property if they have them. But, that's what we're doing currently, and we have little infestations here and there, but we believe they're keeping those under control. That's all.
Thank you so much, David. We'll go to Graham at Pioneer Village next.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Graham Cox. I'm with Pioneer Village Association in Bolton Landing. We are about 200 acres on the east side of 9N, right next to Up Yonder Farm. So that gives you some little sense of just why we're in here. A couple of years ago, we spotted Japanese stilt-grass growing in the ditches and on the banks of the main road that leads down into the association. And thanks to Becca and the team there, we've managed to get a handle on those. I think it's cleared up, but we'll find out this spring when we look around. Our main problem is erosion control. Once you take out plants, you're going to put them back in again. And so thanks to Becca again, we're now in touch with the Soil and Water Conservation District to figure out how we can get some ground cover back on the ditches that go down along the side of a very steep hill down to the lake. I just will add a personal note. In November, I was in New Zealand for 3 weeks hiking in the South Island. And if you think you've got an invasives problem, go to New Zealand and see what you really got. On all the trails, they have boxes to catch invasive species, and they include in those invasives stoats and weasels that were introduced from Europe when they settled. And the biggest invasive they got are sheep. So it's a fascinating place. I urge you, it's a terrible long journey to get to the South Island, but it's really worthwhile to see the scenery there and to see what they're doing for invasive species. We got to see kiwis in the at least in captivity, not in the wild, and absolutely fascinating set of wildlife and birds there. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Graham, and thanks for setting the stage there about just how bad things can get. we will pass it to Diana with the Adirondack League Club next.
Hey, everybody. I'm Diana Lawrence from the Adirondack League Club. And last year we did a survey of our preserve, which we do I think it's maybe every 10 years or so. So we really know what we have. It includes Phragmites, Japanese knotweed, Japanese barberry, yellow iris, and garlic mustard. For the first time, we noticed that we had invasive plants not along roads or new construction. We're now seeing plants that clearly were transported by animals. So that's a first for us. But we treat it when we see it, and doing a survey, we got a really good swipe at things. So we feel we're doing our best, but our biggest challenge, like for everyone, is educating and mobilizing our community. We have some wonderful pocket guide of here's what we have, keep your eyes out, here's what you do when you find them. I'd love to find, and Becca, I'm hoping you can help me, one resource that has all of the tactics that are sort of self-help tactics, like clean your boots after you hike, source your firewood locally, etc., that provides not only the list of tactics, but sufficient detail to know exactly what you do. So if we'd love to create an infographic for our community that has the list of things and enough information so people can take action. I know that information is scattered around the APIP website, but I haven't found it in one place with both the list and the detail. And that would be great for us. Thanks.
Yeah, let me give that some thought, Diana. I'm sure we can find something to send your way.
Awesome, thanks.
And I know we just heard from Graham, but I'd like to point to Graham to talk about just how important education is. You know, Graham spotted that stiltgrass and knew something was wrong and reached out to us. And that stiltgrass Graham reported was actually the first case of stiltgrass within the Adirondack Prism. So, you know, it just goes to show just how important that educational component is.
Becca, we do have a neighbor from Japan who gets a little ticked off with the fact that we named everything Japanese this, Japanese that. And she says, don't blame me for all of this stuff.
It's certainly something we talk about in the invasive species world a lot, is renaming some of these invasive species. I'm sure a lot of folks have heard that we've renamed the gypsy moth as the spongy moth, and there are, you know, some folks thinking about some alternative names that are more descriptive for some of these species other than just saying where they came from. So that's definitely something we're thinking about. I'm not sure if Mike from ESF's ADK campus is on. So I'm going to actually pass things off to Sue Smith with the Chateauguay Woods Association.
Thank you, Becca. We are in the northeastern part of the Adirondacks. I drive up Route 374. I keep an eye on things. And this year, Zach let me know that 18 sites of Phragmites were treated from Denimora Mountain up to Reynorsville. And I was just wondering if there were any sites that you weren't able to treat, and if there's any way we can help with that. But I will keep an eye on that, and the other club members will too. I wanted to bring up a little subject about beaver. So a lot of these Phragmites sites along Route 374 lead into lakes or streams. And routinely DOT feels the need to take beaver dams out and flush all sorts of sediments and plants into the lakes and streams, which isn't good for the lake. It spreads plants around, and it's an expensive process for them. I would really love to see them do a few sites anyway to demonstrate using beaver control devices that can either control the depth of the pond or whether or not they're gonna plug up a culvert, and cause flooding of the road, to see how effective that can be. And then the ponds created by the beaver are wonderful natural areas for turtles, all sorts of critters, and different kinds of plants. So I would really like to work with somebody on that. I'm in Vermont, as you know, and I'm on co-chair of the Charlotte Park and Wildlife Refuge, which is a real showcase of invasive plants. It's 300 acres. 100 of it is ag, hayfields, and we're pecking away at these invasives, mainly honeysuckle, buckthorn, barberry, multifloral rose. And anyway, we're going to be doing a 10-acre project with some grant money to get it this year, and we're going to be and we're working with the land conservancies of Charlotte and Vermont to hire they call it the Brontosaurus. It's a mini excavator with a chipping head that can go in and chew up an invasive, say a giant honeysuckle bush with a diameter of 6 inches, and chip it so you don't have to deal with brush piles. So we're gonna be doing a lot of community education, and hopefully people will help us with, small invasive cleanup. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to seeing this Phragmites disappear along the roadside. And our group would be willing to help in any way we can. We do a HWA project we report on. I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for that update, Sue. I actually hadn't heard of that Brontosaurus tool before. It's pretty cool. And we certainly appreciate your help getting those permissions on Route 374. I know Bill's not on our list, but he's on our call today. And Bill, I don't know if you just want to take a few moments to talk about all the cool HWA work you're doing.
Excuse me. Yeah, hi. Just a little update. I've been prowling around up at Lake George, south of Shelving Rock Bay. It was just an area that I thought that really hadn't had any survey work. And I noticed last fall in October, there was one point positive found by, I think the lady's name was Rebecca Terry, and that kind of got me thinking that, not sure how much other work. I don't think anything is done between Shelving Rock and Pilot Knob. So I said, I'll go in and have a look. And I found if you go south of Shelving Rock, maybe 3/4 of a mile, half a mile, there's a private inholding of land. And along their northern border, I've identified probably an area of like 30 trees that have HWA. And just yesterday, I was on that same parcel on the southern property line and found probably another 30 or 40 trees with HWA. It's, from what I can see of it, looks to me like that's been established there for several years. The sad part about it, and I'm thinking in terms maybe kind of looking toward the future things, is that I'm finding on the north part of the property line and on the southern property line, it pretty much adds up to me 2 and 2 equal to 4, that infestation runs right smack through the middle of this private parcel. And I know that over the past few years, APIP and others have been involved with the DEC in chemically treating trees on state land. But just thinking forward, we're going to run into this where we start seeing it more and more on privately held parcels where, landowners may not have the resources or the, the wherewithal to pay for that kind of work. And something that's in the back of my head, maybe it's been thought about before, is there any way going forward that we can possibly come up with some way for funding for private owners who want to help protect their trees, not only to help prevent the spread, but, if you look at, carbon sequestration going forward, if we start losing huge stands of hemlock, that's going to make a big dent in their capability to do that. But anyway, that's just what I've been doing over the last few days, and I'm going to continue to scope that out, plus other trails that I've adopted here. I was hoping to get on Lake George itself and kind of do some island hopping in the Narrows, but that have to be done with a motorboat or a kayak, because the lake, it froze up a bit, but it's just all gone back. So anyhow, just a little update. And Becca, if there's any questions you want, or if I can answer, please shout out. But that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bill, for all of that work and for giving us that update. It's really cool to see all of your reports coming through.
Probably Zach is sick of it. I mean, because every night about 6:30, he gets a barrage of about 40 things to inspect. So I feel bad for Zach.
It's certainly fun in the morning to see where you've been the previous day and see what you're finding out there. So I don't think we're getting sick of it.
Okay.
So for many of you probably know Adelia Baker worked for us for 3 summers as our steward, and she's now in grad school. And maybe it'd be cool if Adelia, you could pop in for a moment or two and just let us know what you're up to these days.
Hi. Well, I'm currently doing homework, but it's nice to listen in and hear all the updates and kind of wrap up the work that I did this previous summer. It feels like so long ago. But yeah, I'm still working in invasive species, and I'm doing my graduate thesis study on reed canary grass, which was kind of one of our lower priority species. So it's interesting learning about how this could potentially be an issue in coastal wetlands around Lake Ontario, but definitely plan on spending more time in the Adirondacks whenever I get a chance.
Thanks so much for that update, Adelia, and thanks for all your years of service. Is there anyone else on today's call who would like to provide an update? I apologize, my list was made on yesterday's registration list, so if folks registered last minute, we may not have them on this list. I'm not hearing anyone. Is there anything anyone would like to coordinate with each other on before we hop off the call today?
Can I add in one thing?
Yeah, please do, Brian.
Yeah, just wanted to say, I'm really excited to see all of our lake associations who were on the call yesterday making the time to come today, and just really applaud them to think how they are approaching it from a watershed perspective, because our invasives on land have direct impacts into our water quality. And when we look at some of these examples, like knotweed along riparian stream banks, or potentially what hemlock woolly adelgid could do to our landscape, it's really important that you have that holistic view. So I applaud the lake associations for looking beyond the borders of just the lakes.
I certainly second that. It's really cool to see groups working together, between the terrestrial and aquatic sides, and make it, you look at the Lake George Land Conservancy and Ausable River Association, and really organizations that are protecting their watersheds and doing both aquatic and terrestrial work.
Rebecca, if anybody from DOT would like to talk to me, or from the Soil Conservation District of Clinton County about beaver, I've had some experience now. I'd love to talk to people about that. Yeah. You have my information to give people, or?
Susan, this is Peter Dunleavy from, I reported out, I'm the director of the Landscape Architecture Bureau and the main contact for the Adirondacks for DOT. We'd be glad to talk with you. I was going to offer that before you spoke up. So Rebecca, can you shoot her information over my information over to her. And
Yep, I can share that both ways, Peter. I'll CC you both on an email if that works.
Thank you.
sure, and sure, and please copy Alexandra von Bieberstein. She's also on here, and she worked. She was our main shadow to Ed Franz, who many people know, who long since retired. So, we're trying to carry on. Beavers are of great concern to us, and striking that balance of, keeping our roads safe while respecting the good that they do
Mhm.
at the same time. So it's an important balance.
I can't wait to talk to you. It's a really important balance. We can't have roads washed out, but on the other hand, those wetlands are wonderful, and I've seen just so much sediment come into our lake, Chattagay Lake, when DOT would be there with an excavator pulling the beaver dam out. Just a wave of erosion. It's just so. And in our park in Charlotte, I'll give it a little plug. We had some pair of beaver move in to an area that had beaver maybe 20 years ago. And they have transformed the whole park. It's so wonderful to see what the water can do, the plants that have come in. There's water available all year now for others, for birds, other wildlife. And it just brings the whole environment alive. It's just wonderful. So I can't wait to talk to you.
Thank you both, and I'll be sure to, like I said, get you both on an email chain together so you can further coordinate. Is
Thank
there
you.
anyone else that would like to coordinate with someone on the call before we move on to our next section?
I'd just like to mention that for the Adirondack Botanical Society, if anybody has land or a preserve that maybe we could plan a future field trip to, you can contact us. There are emails on the website.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve.
Mhm.
I've got one comment too. One of the previous speakers talked about private land where the HWA was on the private land. We have on Paseco, we have one camp where this person has the knotweed, Japanese knotweed growing from their camp down to the lake level. The Hamilton County Soil and Water went in, talked to them about removing it. They said they didn't want to remove, they like the flowers. I went in and talked with this lady for quite a bit, told her problems with it. She says, "Oh, it's very nice, but I like the flowers." So we couldn't do anything about it. And the darn things keep growing every year. I'm sure they're probably dropping something in the lake on a continual basis. But what do you do in a case like that?
The best we can do is what Hamilton County and you folks did, is try to talk to folks. Unfortunately, there's no laws that, force people to manage invasive species on their properties, and, education is power. So, just try keep trying to educate those people about how fast these things spread and the damage they do.
Yeah, I did that, and she just smiled at me and said, "I like the flowers." Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately, we run into that sometimes, and, we can try our best, but, we can't always change people's minds.
Yeah, just frustrating.
I can certainly relate.
Yep, that's all.
Thanks, David.
Becca, this is Peter again. I
Yeah,
wanted
Peter.
to reach out to, can you hear me, Becca?
Yep, we can hear you just fine, Peter.
I wanted to reach out to Graham of Pioneer Village, and just I'm wondering if he's familiar with. He was talking about when they remove invasives from those steep slopes and then they're bare. We have that pilot project where we use this Proganics mixture. There's a kind of a hydroseeding mixture of really good organic materials along with tackifier, and you put whatever seeds and things you want in there. And we're monitoring that pilot project that we did with one of the soil and water conservation districts. And I don't know if you're familiar with that material, but you might want to consider that on those slopes.
Peter,
Yeah, Peter.
Peter, this is Graham Cox. I really appreciate the suggestion. And when I talk with the soil and water conservation folks on Monday morning, I'll ask them about it.
Wonderful.
Peter?
And we can supply background information on it too. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You know, when we remove whole bunches of honeysuckle, it's always bare underneath. And if there's some canopy and it's kind of shady, I'm kind of at a loss what to use for seed. I can find lots of seed, you know, for sunny areas, native seeds, but for shady areas, do you have any suggestions?
It's really hard to make seed recommendations without seeing, you know, this exact site. On our website, Sue, I can share with you, we do have a list of somewhat local seed vendors. And if you call them and talk to them about your exact site, they'll be able to make some better recommendations than I could. So I'll be sure to share that with you. Anyone else? Let's just move to our last slide here quickly and just talk about some upcoming events. So as Liz and Alex mentioned, we do have some HWA Forest Pest Hunter field trips. So that Forest Pest Hunter program was kicked off on January 24th and is running through April 9th. And if you missed that training, you can visit our website and get all that you need, see all that you need. You can see the recording, you can download the protocol, and get everything you need to prepare to go hunting for hemlock woolly adelgid. Brian, Sean's computer died on him and he's having some problems. Would you mind just dropping the link to our events page in chat? There are also some opportunities to go on field trips like Liz mentioned and Alex mentioned, and the dates for those are on this page. So next Thursday, February 16th, we're doing a hike with Ausable River Association in Wilmington. On Saturday, March 4th, we're doing a hike in Wilmington with the Champlain Area Trails. And on March 11th, we're doing a hike at Hearthstone Point Campground in conjunction with Lake George Land Conservancy and the Adirondack Mountain Club. Next Wednesday, we actually have a really exciting webinar coming up where Dr. Kirk Stagger from Paul Smith College, as well as our own Brian Green, will be talking about climate change and invasive species. And in March, on March 15th, we have a native species gardening and pollinator webinar coming up. I'm not sure the registration information is up for that one yet, but it will be soon. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming today and giving their updates. It is so incredible to hear about all the work that is going on throughout the region. You know, I think when folks think of invasive species, they often first go to APIP, but this meeting goes to show just how many folks are out there doing really important work. So thank you, everyone.
Becca, I have a question.
Sure.
The climate change session with the mild weather this year, and I think to kill off HWA, you need -20 degrees. Is that bad news for us looking forward through this winter?
It's hard to say for certain until, you know, we get out there and look in the next spring and summer. But it does seem to be that way. What really kills off the most HWA are those, you know, freak really cold nights in like March when things start to warm up. So there's still hope that if we get those cold nights in March, it'll kill off some of those HWAs. Well, thank you, everyone.
And Ev, you can put a plug in, you can come on February 15th, and yeah, hemlock woolly adelgid will be one of the species that I talk about. So there's definitely some connections there.
Well, I will come on, but I will not visit in person. I'm on Siesta Key.
That's okay. That's why we get to do these things over Zoom. So everybody from all over, we had a person yesterday in our aquatic thing call in from London.
Yes, I was on that. Chris DiGiovanni's on the list here too. So, and he's up there, maybe he can.
And just like all of our webinars, that event will be recorded too. So if folks aren't available at that exact time slot, please feel free to register and we'll be emailing out the recording after.
Becca, can you just say one more time about the climate change and invasive species? I didn't get the date and time.
I'm sorry, Graham, you got a little quiet there. I think you were asking about the climate change webinar.
Yes, could you tell the date and time again? I didn't catch that.
Yeah, Brian, it's February 15th from 10 to 11:30, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Yeah, we might not go all the way to 11:30, but yep.
And Graham, if you look in the chat, Brian actually dropped the link where you can go to our events page and register for that event.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. I'm gonna go ahead and stop our recording for today.